So a very good evening, everyone. And also good evening over there. So, welcome to what traditionally is called Satsang, which is just another word to describe an opportunity to sit together in profound silence, and all of the rest is just bonus. If we share some talk, that talk is simply meant to give us the chance to clarify our thoughts, to put our mind in order, and to be able to sink even more deeply into this energy field of silence. So just feel very comfortable. It's not about coming to study something, to understand. It's more about allowing a certain perspective that we ordinarily do not have, because we are so engaged in daily life, to slowly take over. And that perspective doesn't come through effort, it comes through the opening of our mind. Every such meeting is the same, and every such meeting is completely different because we put our focus on some aspect and illuminate it. And today is going to be what can be called a heart satsang. It means that we're going to discuss matters of the heart from the perspective of satsang, from this energy field. So, before we're at all going to enter our talk, it would be good to start with meditation. It's always good to start with meditation. That stuff softens our being and prepares it. And you will probably quickly understand from this meditation what this talk is going to be all about. Good. So, shall we? Let's do that. Let's close our eyes. And it may not be the most obvious meditation in the world, so just follow it simply and effortlessly and see what happens. So as you close your eyes, take one deep breath to dive into the inner spaces. Then breathe slowly and deeply. Allowing your body to relax more and more with every breath you take. And as we breathe in silence and relaxation, I'm going to ask you to bring up before your mind's eye the image of and presence of someone that you feel really connected to, someone you feel deep emotions towards. Perhaps even love. Someone that you feel that you can effortlessly and naturally love and care about. This can be, of course, a parent, a child, a dog, a cat, a friend. It can even be some deity, or if you'd like, God. It doesn't matter, as long as you feel that your heart is immediately awakens awaken towards that being. And as you put that person or being before your mind's eyes, and even before your heart's eyes, feel this natural magnet that works on both of you. How this natural magnet pulls you towards that person or being. Feel how mysterious forces make you feel so drawn and so deeply connected and engaged. Feel this gap between the two of you. A gap which simultaneously makes you two and one. It's an energy that unifies your heart, even if in daily life you can't fully and powerfully express it. Now bring this love or caring or deep connectivity to a maximal limit. Feel how this love, this connection spreads throughout your entire body, from head to toe. Focus intensely and intently once more on that person or being. And then let go of that person or being. Let go of this image before your eyes, but still remain with this energy, with the very essence of this love and connectivity, but this time without an object. Now feel this vibration of love and connectivity. And slowly let it spread throughout the entire space. Now that it has no focus, it simply overflows. Feel how you can turn this energy towards people, plants, animals, yourself. And in the same way, you can just keep it open without a focus. Now try to follow this energy of love and connectivity all the way to where it came from. What is the origin, the place from which this love comes from? Even if you can't name it or trace it exactly, just feel it. As a sort of source of your experience of love. Then just let yourself fall into that source. As if you're somehow becoming one with it. Breathe into this state. Just feel what happens. And without letting go of this energy, keeping this vibration, this flame of mysterious love in you, as you can slowly and gently open your eyes. So, if we can keep this feeling of being somewhere in between the deep connection to someone, being able to cherish this connection, and at the same time to agree to let go completely when the time comes, remembering that there is something both personal and universal in our love. That could be a good starting point for this evening. The reason we experience this meditation together, which I believe if you followed it, you realized it was fairly easy to do, right? Because we have the basic material, we don't need to imagine it. It's in our body, this connection, these strong feelings. We don't need to produce them. We just need to put our attention on them. The reason we experience this meditation is because today I would like us to explore the issue of attachment. Because attachment is a big subject in spiritual guidance. It is in self-work. Of course, if we have read even a little of spiritual literature or listened to teachers, we sooner or later we came into contact with this notion that we need to practice a sort of non-attachment, letting go of attachment, being free. And I want to explore this because we might get the wrong ideas about attachment and non-attachment. And you see, there is a thing with our mind. Our mind tends to think in extremes. It doesn't get middle points. If you tell it the truth is somewhere in the middle, it immediately becomes confused because it likes to be conceptual and to know exactly what to follow. And if you tell the mind to get strongly attached, only strongly attached, then it gets it without a problem. It knows what we all know what it means and what it feels like to get strongly attached, right? With all the misery and suffering attached to it, and the effort to avoid the misery and suffering that are attached to attachment. And on the other hand, when we hear that we should let go of attachment, that we should be non-attached, free, then our mind can immediately think, oh, okay, that means to feel very little, almost nothing, and to be completely independent, to be able to let go of anyone at any given moment without worry. Letting go of any kind of deep interrelation with our parents, our children, and be like a free spirit. Now this second extreme, this other extreme, is a very good teaching for spirits. You see, if we were right now in some realm of non-physical realm, with no biology, with no profound connections, that probably would be a great teaching, because we would be then some sort of spirits, and letting go would be not that difficult, perhaps a little difficult. I don't know how it's in the astral planes, perhaps you know. But when it comes to humans, to this spiritual experience of being a human, it becomes more complex. And I think, you know, the reason we have a lot of trouble to begin with is the mixture that we are. It's very confusing to be both a spirit and a physical body. How do you settle this contradiction? So then we all the time have this struggle within us, these two forces. And when it comes to the topic of attachment, this struggle is obviously stronger than ever, because we feel deeply attached as humans. When we have these connections, we experience these connections to our family, to our friends, to our dear ones. This is felt in the body like something that is inseparable. And if it is quite inconceivable to think of ourselves as ones who let people go completely without a problem, without emotions, it is for a good reason. Essentially, we cannot do that, you see? This means that to think that we could ever reach some pure non-attachment of not caring, not needing, not needing to struggle with the issue of letting go, that is not realistic. To be in a human body, it means to know the pain of attachment and of letting go. There was one wonderful spiritual teacher that I used to know when I used to live in Israel, and she was clearly a spiritually enlightened being, a very extraordinary woman, and she lived all her life with a husband who didn't accept her spiritual way at all, didn't understand it, and even after she became completely free, completely liberated internally, she chose to remain with him. And people kept asking her in Satsang, why don't you leave this guy? What? You don't need him, and he doesn't accept you. And she always said, it's because I love him. And at a certain point, he died. He died because we humans tend to die at a certain point. And I came to visit her like other people when she was after the funeral. She was hosting us at her home, and she looked, as always, completely vibrant and ecstatic and awake and spiritually wise. So I asked her how was it the moments of his dying, and she said, well, I was with him, and then when he closed his eyes, when he died, and they were in the hospital, she said, a scream came out of my body. I think this scream shook the entire hospital. It was so loud, I didn't even know that it was in me. And after that scream, everything was okay again. This scream is obviously inside us when someone with whom we feel so deeply associated, as if they were a part of our body, suddenly dies or leaves or loses interest in us. So this scream is completely valid, it's human. It's what makes us human, the fact that we feel strongly in the body. The fact that we must attach. But there has to be, of course, also the other part, which is our capacity to let go when we have to agree to it, but without rejecting the pain. So if this sounds a bit complex, it is, because we need to somehow go through it all. But the first thing we need to understand is that attachment, the reason we can't, it's difficult to be non-attached, is because it is unnatural, and also because we know that there is something that is utterly beautiful about it. That's our great difficulty, because we know that there is something deeply spiritual about attachment. That it cannot be that bad. That it's not just us being superficial and resistant, clingy and materialistic. There is something that is too real and true for us to separate from. And that's for a good reason, because it is. It is spiritual, it is beautiful, and it is true. It is a certain part of us which we must honor and give space to. To try to erase it means to try to be non-human. To feel nothing. But of course, if you're not attached, how can you feel strongly? You see, the strong feeling is deeply connected to it. If you're willing that somebody would die at any given moment, if you're not going to have any struggle to let go, then you can't have the other thing. That intense connection, this fire of love, the flame. Now, of course, there is something that is, when you look into attachment, that is a bit of a self-deceit. You're probably not sure what I mean. Self-deceit means that there is something that is a bit of a biological trick, right? Because think for a second, if you would give birth to a baby, but in the hospital they would make a mistake and replace your baby with some other baby. At that moment that you're excited and you're just after the birth giving and you're waiting for your baby to come back, and then the mistaken baby is given to you and they tell you, here is your baby. And you look at this baby and you immediately feel that you're connected, that this is yours, that you would give everything to this baby. So there is something that is a bit random about biology. We somehow find ourselves with the people we're meant to love, right? And that makes it a bit complicated, because sometimes it's not fully our choice. But then, even with our partners, there is some level of biological deceit. That there are forces that are stronger than us, sometimes unclear, and we find ourselves with these partners. So something about it is random. To a certain degree, you could love also others if you only trained yourself to it or were biologically manipulated. And still, even though that is true, there is something in us that just weaves around these people and makes them our dear ones. these are the people who are probably going to be around us for the rest of our life, or at least for many, many years. And this connection is something that we need not only to just accept or honor, it's something that we need to live through completely with totality. First of all, because these people are our place to practice, right? We cannot play around with just abstract words, with universal love, or with just yes, I love everyone. We have to have this personal engagement that is confusing and tormenting, and that has ups and downs, and disappointment and frustration and little moments of joy and many moments that are not really, that don't really happen as we planned. And the fact that in our daily life, even when we mean big, very often it comes out very small and disappointing. All these things, that is our daily practice. And each one of us needs to go through this daily practice, through this connection, love that has a face. You remember in our meditation at the beginning? We first focused on that face. And we must have a face. It's good to aim to love universally. It's important. This is the part in us that is no less important, the part that is universal, the part that is faceless. I feel connection to each one of you as soon as the eyes meet and there is a sharing of something. And even if there was no sharing, there is a connection. But I'm not going to go back with you to my house, right? I'm not going to tell you good night. I'm not going to wake up with you. Because that's not my journey. It's not with you. No offense. I don't think that you would want to have that anyway, so it's okay. So we have this journey with some faces. And I say faces, it's because there is something in the midst of infinity, in the midst of this empty, endless universe, and huge amounts of people on this earth. Suddenly there are some faces that you will remember, that you will struggle to let go of if they die. That you are meant to share with them the journey of your life. And it's exactly that, you see, that you have also the role of remembering them, of cherishing their face in the midst of infinity, of being able to be the ones who acknowledge their journey, its significance, to give it importance. Otherwise, it's all lost. Otherwise, it's all chaos. If we don't have these faces. and if we don't feel this love to certain faces. Even if it's random, even if it's biological, we care about these faces. We care about how they're doing, what's going on with them, if they're sick. That's not only biology. In the end, it has a spiritual value. So it's very important to say that, because we are not meant to let go of attachment. Okay, that's this whole story was about this simple point. We're not. I could have said that, and you could have gone home earlier. Yes. It's not about being not non-attached, not in this sense. But there is something completely different that is of importance, and this has nothing to do with attachment, with the beauty of attachment and the value of attachment, and that is dependency. Dependency is a completely different story. It means that if somebody dies, you are broken. You are broken because this person has become such an inseparable part of yourself that you could never return to yourself, that something is broken, that some huge piece of you is taken. And therefore you rely on that person to define your sense of self, your experience of yourself. With this person you are whole. Without this person you are part, you are halved, you are broken. So dependency is there, you can say is the shadow side of attachment. And that's exactly the thing with attachment, that it comes with a shadow. So I guess that some teachers simply say, let go of attachment, because then you get rid of the whole package, you see, immediately. If you let go of attachment, you also let go of the suffering that is related to attachment. That's an easier trick. It's not easy to remain attached and to be willing to face the consequences. To agree to suffer, and also to take into account that at a certain point the suffering has to end, that a letting go must happen. And that the fact that you have this closeness doesn't mean that you are less of yourself if you lose it. And that is the second part of the meditation, you see. It's this moment when you feel it. You feel the attachment fully, without reservation. You don't try to feel less, you see. Sometimes in spirituality people try to feel less because then they suffer less. That's just a trick. Right? On the contrary, try to feel more. Remove the filters. Agree to go through this experience fully, totally. It will not make your life easier, but it will make your life real. Because you're humans. On the other hand, if you really go through this experience fully and totally, you also include in it the letting go. That moment, and that moment is going to happen whether a person is going to die, leave you, or you're going to die and leave all of them at once. So this is what we can call a conscious attachment. You say, I'm going to go through it. I'm not going to close my heart. I'm not going to deaden my emotional center. I'm not going to try just to be a spirit, or to say, hey, I'm independent. I don't need anyone. No, that's not reasonable. Of course you need. We all need. And at the same time, I know that there is death in it. I'm not going to deny it. I'm going to live with this death. And when the time comes, I'm going to go through the pain, and until it dies out, until that scream is over. Tell yourself, I enjoy it as long as it lasts. That actually gives you a much better capacity to cherish this phase, to look at it, because sometimes our attachments become dependency that becomes taken for granted. That person becomes such an obvious part of ourselves that we don't give it a moment to stop, to look, just like we did in this meditation. So this is what it means to live just in the middle. You see? That's something that is very confusing to the mind, but to the heart it actually makes a lot of sense. You're going to love fully, to live out your attachment to its fullest. But you're also agreeing to the pain. And you know consciously, you're fully conscious, you are preparing yourself not to avoid the pain, you're preparing yourself because the other side of this experience. So let's see if there are questions. Yes, please.
How did your spiritual master changes after the birth?
I can't hear you.
How did your spiritual master changes after her lost? The story you told us before.
Yes.
About your master.
Yes.
Her husband died.
Yes. What about her?
How was the change? Did she change a lot, or?
How was the change? How was the change for this enlightened woman after she had lost her husband there? Well, I guess she had more free time. because it was not there to limit her time with students. I'm not joking. This was obviously because it's very important to understand the spiritual masters, if they are real, they don't change. That's an important thing. They don't become less or more than what they are. That's actually the truly reliable thing about real spiritual masters. You meet them 10 years ago, and then you meet them again, and then 10 years after, perhaps they become better speakers, or they have more gray hair, but they don't change. They are like a solid rock. And it's not because they don't, they resist life's changes, or they try to be a solid rock. It's actually the other way around. They allow life to flow without resistance. And life shapes them, of course, in many ways, but only on the surface. So I can't say that she was a different person in any way. Perhaps she was more impersonal, because to a certain degree, the love that we experience in life is wonderful, but it's also binding. You see, so it makes us, it keeps us some level of personality or personal connection, because we need to focus. That's the thing with personal connections. They are personal, and they demand a lot of attention. So when we are freed from them, we're actually more expanded. There is suddenly an openness, a loosening of the focus. And that is also when you're being honest with yourself, you can also see that with all the love that you experience, there is also something greatly liberating when love is over, or when a connection is over. It means more space. Yes.
When is it time to let go? I mean, there could be the life things that people die.
The what?
I mean, there could be that life takes the decision or
Yes.
no.
Yes.
But how is it normally? When is it time to let go?
When is it time to let go? That's a big question, because in personal connections there are many personal nuances. They are very specific. You can never generalize. You see, like create a law. Everything is so specific that no answer could save us from needing to be very, very sensitive. Personal relationships, they demand so much sensitivity, so much awareness. And obviously sometimes it's very tiresome. But that's what they are. So obviously there are, as you say, the clear moments that life decides for us. There is death. Our partner leaves us one day, giving us no room for negotiation. Our child reaches a certain age, packs their suitcase and just leaves home, not calling anymore, or calling very infrequently, making it clear that we have become quite irrelevant. So these are the forced moments. And it's very important in these moments, by the way, to again, don't try to shut down. Don't try to run to non-attachment. Don't try to escape this experience, because if you feel little, you also love little. Do you understand the principle? Because also if you turn off, if you minimize your feeling, then it will include everything. It will minimize also your capacity to love, to be passionate, to have life energy. So there are, of course, those times when we need to accept that we're meant to let go, that we're meant to bring a certain relationship to an end. That is a second time, a second example. And the third example is when we are still with these people and there's no reason to let go. And still we need to experiment with it. We need to experiment with it because we need to be in this middle point between attachment and independence. between attachment and letting go. And this needs to be practically every day. It doesn't have to be a long practice. It can just be to have it in our consciousness that how brief the time we share with our loved ones, and to feel it, the edge of it, to feel that there is death, that there is an ending. And because of that, to cherish it even more. Not to become disheartened, like, oh, there is death anyway, so who cares? It's all so depressing that I don't want to feel. No, on the contrary, it's like really using it to feel more strongly. Because you know that it's ending. So in this sense, if you're preparing like that, and if you're agreeing, you're inviting with all your heart the pain. You say, yes, I'm willing. I'm going to experience this attachment. I'm going to experience it fully, and I'm willing to take the risk of pain. Because people always say, yes, I'm going to attach, but they erase the option. You see, they don't think about it, and then they are always shocked when it comes. So there are many small letting goes that we need to take, but really the only moment when we need to let go, which means to allow something to come to an end, is only when it has to end, and that's it. Even then, what ends? The attachment? The attachment doesn't have to end ever. Attachments are eternal. Only the dependency needs to be let go of. Always make this differentiation. Ask yourself, what would happen if that person would be out of my life? What would happen if my daughter told me I'm not talking to you anymore? And to feel do I still experience wholeness? Is there still an integrity of the self, a completeness? We only know these extremes, either to be dependent and incomplete, or to be independent. But to make sure that we are whole, and from this wholeness to experience attachment. More questions? Yes, please.
I stumbled over that word that you use, like spiritual master, and I was wondering what defines a spiritual master? How do you become spiritual master?
The term spiritual master, what does it mean, right? And how do you become a spiritual master? Well, you go to university, you study for a few years, you get a diploma. And, sorry?
The spiritual master.
Yes, yes. We hereby acknowledge. So what is a spiritual master? That's a big question. Another one. It's first of all, a spiritual master is not defined by what he or she does. It's not defined by the act of teaching. It's a spiritual master is a spiritual master even if they don't teach, or even if they don't have students. They're not defined by that. Spiritual master is someone who has completed the major lessons of life. There is a sort of you can say some kind of list of must learn in human life. Attachment is one of them, and there are many others. There are so many aspects to understand, and to understand to such a degree that one can attain complete silence and freedom and a state of unaffectedness when engaging in them, which means that one has learned the lessons and is not troubled anymore from the inside. It means that one's psyche and one's heart and one's mind are completely resolved. Never completely, 99.9, okay? Just to always keep room for human error. But still 99.9 are a lot. Which means most of the time. And this spiritual master, whether they are at home and nobody watches them, or outside in the public, there is something that is simply untroubled constantly. They don't have thoughts that busy them, that trouble them. They don't have issues to solve. They don't need to self-accept themselves. They don't need to understand how to let go. And that is because they have reached a certain point of spiritual and emotional, psychological maturation that makes them understand the lessons and the big lesson of life. Now this makes them perfectly and utterly available. Basically, they have nothing to do. Spiritual masters have nothing to do in their life. They don't need to fulfill their life. They don't need to achieve something. They don't need to become a somebody. They don't need to prove something to someone. They don't have dreams for themselves, a future, nor do they long for the past. They're not sentimental. They're just completely available and silent. That's why they are available also at a certain point to teach others, not because they want to. A spiritual master would never want to be a spiritual teacher. You see, it's not a passion, it's not a desire, it's not something that is going to fulfill that person. It's just a sort of a natural outcome, a sort of a service that is an extension of one's being. It happens. Of course, a spiritual master must experience themselves inseparable from the universe, in a state of unity consciousness, which means that they experience that their life doesn't belong to themselves. They belong to the universe, and they no longer have a personal business. You see, a personal story, a drama. You become a spiritual master if you go steadily with all your attention and wakefulness and love and passion through the lessons of life. If you are really interested in understanding this life fully, and give your central energy to your innermost, to your consciousness rather than to things, people, actions. So becoming a spiritual master is a combination of profound spiritual experiences that eventually become a state of being, and learning very thoroughly life's lessons, understanding what they want from us, not resisting. This is the term master. You know what master means? Mastery means that you have a sort of complete command of something. And a master, first of all, knows how to master oneself, one's own energies, one's own fears, desires, hopes, obsessions, thoughts, emotions. It's like there is an inner owner in the house that is yourself, and this owner masters his or her house. But this is the same for life in general. A master knows how to govern all his or her aspects of life, and manages them in a creative, silent, and unconflicted way. That's why to learn from a master is never to learn just from words, but when we watch a master. For example, when we watch a spiritual master when her husband dies, and we are then we are very interested, because we should expect a different response. We should see this mastery expressing itself in a way that would be very baffling to our mind. Our mind cannot grasp that. So then, of course, when I came and watched that spiritual master after the funeral, completely impersonal, completely universal, completely available, completely awake, still being able to honor that attachment without dependency, then you say, oh my God, this is something that is extraordinary, and at the same time something that is so accessible that perhaps I would want that too. So that's a brief answer to a big question. Yes.
Could you please describe more the difference between when is the border between being deeply passionate and when does it come to come into dependency or even into obsession? This is a miracle for me.
Yes.
Because I can't see that border. Because when you are so deep in passion with something, yes, and then it's so abstract that I think, okay, I imagine to be holy, being deeply passionate, and being attached but not dependent. It sounds like a masterpiece. Yeah.
Yes. So you're asking, how could we distinguish there is this borderline, right, between separating passion, complete engagement, and dependency? Well, it's very easy. Dependency really hurts, while attachment is mainly beautiful. Attachment is not I have a daughter, and we have a lovely connection. And this connection doesn't have a duality, you see? It doesn't know conflict. And that is because while I'm really honoring this attachment and I feel deeply connected, I have no expectations, and most certainly I don't weave my self-identity around I am my daughter's father, you see? Because that's the problem. When the self becomes entwined in a way that to be yourself eventually is to be with that person or focused on that person. That is when attachment moves to dependency. It's almost like we abuse the beauty of attachment, you see? We enjoy it so much that we begin to drink its energy, to consume it into ourselves. Instead of just letting, just like that, you see, it's like any connection, any relation is like a gentle flower. And to watch it, to see the beauty of it, to appreciate it, but not to touch it with aggressive hands and to start tearing it apart. And this is very simple to notice, because dependency hurts a lot. And it's not like the beautiful pain when, for example, this spiritual master lost her husband, that she had this scream, or when we cry because somebody close to us is sick. That has beauty. That is because it expresses caring and our deep emotions. The fact that we're engaged, there is nothing wrong about worrying for someone we love or caring for someone we love, taking care of them. But dependency is this experience that begins to make our relationships so contaminated. Then they become darkened with really negative emotions. The beauty becomes also the torment and despair and demand and violent expectations, anger, rage, fear, anxiety, obsession in our mind. That's not attachment. It has nothing to do with attachment. Think of attachment as the beautiful thread that we are blessed to experience. That we have the privilege to experience towards someone. And that this beauty gives us the joy of communion and also the burden of taking care, worrying for someone. So when it gets complicated, you can know immediately that it's dependency. It's very simple. When something beautiful becomes complicated, then you need to start worrying. Then you need to say, hey, look what you're doing. When it becomes jealousy and possessiveness and anger and treating another as an object and tearful demands, all that's not attachment. And this always means when we become dependent, we always need to ask ourselves, what kind of hole inside us does this dependency try to fill? What are we trying to cover up? What is missing in our life that makes us try to consume it from the presence of another? Because it's simply something that we don't have and we hope that the other has. Or that we hope that the other could distract us enough not to feel the hole in our heart, you see? Relationships are not meant to be complicated. Did I just say that? Okay. Of course, they can have some ups and downs. They can have some difficult moments, but not to become something that is completely dual, completely conflicted, and that becomes a battlefield rather than joy. This is not natural. And this is where our work lies, obviously. Yes. Yeah. Is there any question? Okay, please.
In a teaching in the Erleuchtungskongress Berlin last year, I understood that you were talking about different rooms and levels of love, like level 1, 2, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
And that what you're talking about right now is what I understood as room 2, where we do have relations. We do have a daughter, a brother, sister.
Mm.
And that on a different level, I also heard a citation from you, I don't know whether it's true, that on this other level of where life is an illusion, you should have said, like, I don't have a daughter, I can play the role of a father. And what I loved in Berlin was when you said, when you are on room 1 and try to jump to 3, you skip 2. And do I understand you right that you are talking about room 2 today? This is all about, loving persons in room 2, but on level 3, there is no conflict and there is no attachment.
So you say there is this level that in which there is no attachment, right? And there is a certain level that we need to go through. No. Attachment remains until your last breath, and it should remain. Attachment is your deep appreciation and commitment towards those certain faces with whom you are destined to experience this life. And it's a commitment, and it's also an emotional commitment. And you don't transcend that unless you're really, let's say, very, very good at suppression.
Is the citation, I don't have a daughter, I play the role of a father, is that from you?
Yes, of course. I don't have a daughter. I play the role of a father. Yes, it could be nice. It's a nice definition, but not complete, of course. You see, because this can be said from to explain something that from the level of deep spirituality, but it doesn't answer the heart's experience. What does it even mean to the heart, you see? We need to understand this sentence, this quote is true in the sense that being a father means having an identity. It means that because what happens if you're suddenly not a father? You see? Even if you're lucky and your child doesn't die, they live wonderfully and they flourish, you will need to die to your connection with them sooner or later. Do you understand what I mean by die to it? Because at a certain point, you need to separate from the child that you knew and to accept an adult that will not be your child, even if you really want that or whatever. So, if you're a father, that means that it's your self-identity, which is exactly what we talked about before. But such a sentence must not make us imagine that it's not a strong feeling to go through the experience of having a daughter. You see? It's exactly that in the middle.
There are a few questions here.
A few? Well,
I'll take.
let's start with one and see, because...
Do you think that so many people run from one partner to another partner because of the fear of attachment which they begin to feel? And what can help them to find more trust? This is Lilith from Austria.
Okay, hello. So the question is about people who move from one partner to another. Is that trying to escape attachment?
Yeah, when they try.
And
when it starts.
how can one develop trust? Well, I'm not that conservative to believe that that one must be fully committed for the rest of one's life to one partner, and that's a sort of a conservative idea, and it's good for some of us, and for some of us it's not good. And we sometimes, because we project from our own experience, we look at people who don't feel necessarily committed to romantic partnership, and we say you need to open your heart more. You need to learn to love, because in love there is always a full commitment, and you can never leave, and you can also never think of other people, and so on. This very much depends on the constitution of that person, and therefore to immediately conclude that all people who change partners are afraid of love and suffer from a problem of mistrust is a bit of a hasty conclusion. For some of us, it may be true. And we know that it is true only if we're just there for the pleasure. And pleasure, of course, has nothing to do with the experience of communication with another. So, of course, if we are there just for quick pleasures, that can be an indication that we are not ready to experience something that is more complex. The question is mainly not whether we have one partner for the rest of our life, but are we capable of loving? That's a very different question. So if that person knows no love, doesn't know the experience of profound communication with others, of caring for someone else, then that can be a problem. A last question.
How to let go of disappointments, connected to loved ones. For instance, when a friend says she doesn't want to be your friend anymore.
How to let go of disappointments with loved ones when a friend says that she doesn't want to be your friend anymore. Well, we hear that sometimes, right? Sometimes people let us know that we are no longer relevant. And we feel that it's still relevant, and we think we should be still relevant, and that person is still relevant to us. Well, it could be really helpful to first of all understand that as soon as somebody tells us that we're no longer relevant, that means that this is also true to us, only we don't know it yet. We always make the mistake of, because our mind likes so much continuity, it likes persistence, our minds hate interruption. It doesn't, if something ends, they don't care so much what it was, and if it was still relevant or still authentic, they immediately jumps and says, what? This cannot be. I don't want that to happen, because our minds just want everything to continue forever without interruption. But if you, as soon as somebody disappoints you in such a way, telling you that you're no longer relevant to their life, and you listen to yourself and you realize that it is true, that this connection is no longer relevant. You've just heard that. This is how you know. You just were not aware of it. You just were not aware also of that God or the universe actually clears away room for your life to reopen. And that must be an immediate trust. That this is deeply connected to the issue of trust, not trusting in others. Nobody needs to practice trusting others, you see? You need to learn how to trust life, not others. If you trust life, there is no issue of trusting others. But if you try trusting others and you don't trust life, you are dooming yourself again to dependency. So just trust that a new space should open up right now. And we all know that from experience. We always cry and then we say, oh my God, that was so much better. And and if we're honest, that knowing that every ending creates space, we begin to be honest enough to admit that every ending happens exactly at the right time. There is no such thing as a mistake, or something goes wrong, or it shouldn't happen like that. It happens exactly like that. It's at that moment when your friend tells you it's over, it's God incarnating in that body telling you it's over. And God or the universe, whatever you want. So we just need to have these feelings that there is no such thing as bad disappointment. When somebody turns their back on us, they are doing us a great favor that we're just unaware of. We need to wait a little. Sooner or later we will understand. You see, we always want to control the ending, but did we control the beginning? Do you understand? we don't control the beginnings of communications. They just happen. We don't know what makes our connections emerge out of the mystery of life. So we also don't know how they dissolve back into the mystery. So if your friend tells you it's over, tell yourself she is right. It's over. I don't question that, I don't doubt that.
So you just have to wait or also to scream?
Sorry?
So you just have to wait that you get over it, or do you also have to scream? Because it hurts still.
So let that scream take place. As long as that scream doesn't become a continuous scream inside you. That even if it becomes more and more silent inside you, it still continues to scream, you see. The whole thing, even if you feel that contraction at first, that's a master. There is always some greater wisdom, some greater knowledge that knows that all is well. And if the body screams fully, after that, it no longer screams, you see. Okay. So, I think it's over. There is a little death now. Something is over, I'm saying goodbye, and it will only be for the best. It will give you great space now. So, good night. Thank you.